They say the world belongs to the consistent, not the talented, not the lucky, not even the smartest, but the ones who wake up day after day and do what needs to be done, no matter how they feel. You want success? Then you better get used to doing it tired, doing it uninspired, doing it even when the world isn't clapping for you. Because consistency is the secret no one wants to talk about. It's not sexy. It doesn't give you instant dopamine. It doesn't go viral. But it's the only thing that builds power that lasts. Every time you show up, you make a statement, I will not betray my future self. Every time you push through, you etch another line into your legacy. Napoleon Hill said, persistence is to the character of man as carbon is to steel. You hear that? It's not an accessory, it's the backbone. Without consistency, your dream is a fantasy. With it, your dream becomes a blueprint. So what's stopping you? A little tiredness, a few setbacks, someone doubting you? They doubt you because you've trained them to, because you've shown them inconsistency, because you've let yourself start things you didn't finish. And now, you have a chance to rewrite that, not by making some grand declaration, but by showing up tomorrow, and the day after that, and again and again. Because let me tell you something brutal, your emotions are liars. They will whisper that you need a break, that it's too much, that you'll never make it anyway. But your future doesn't care how you feel. It only cares what you do. Do it angry, do it sad, do it broken, but do it. You want success to feel easy? It won't, not at first, because greatness is always inconvenient. Do you think champions wake up excited every day? Number. They wake up committed. There's a difference. One chases feeling. The other follows principle. You're not always going to feel like showing up, but show up anyway. You're not always going to feel strong, but train anyway. You're not always going to feel certain, but act anyway, because every time you do, you chip away at the weakness that wants to keep you small, and you build something else, a force that can't be bought, can't be given, can't be faked, only earned. That's what consistency is. It's earned strength, earned identity, earned power. Napoleon Hill didn't just speak about success, he mapped it. He said, you will attract what you are, not what you want. So if you want stability, become consistent. If you want wealth, become disciplined. If you want power, become relentless. Everyone wants the reward. No one wants the repetition. But let me tell you the truth. Your reward is in the repetition. That's where confidence is born. That's where respect is earned, especially self-respect. You keep asking for motivation, but you don't need more motivation. You need to stop negotiating. You don't get to debate with your old self anymore. That version of you already lost. You've got no business consulting a loser. You've got no time to hear from that voice that says, it's okay to skip today. Because every time you listen, you weaken your edge. Every time you listen, you hand your future to fear. So stop making decisions based on feelings. Start making them based on who you want to become every single day. Consistency is not just about routine. It's about identity. Because what you do daily isn't just shaping your results. It's sculpting who you believe you are. You think you're lazy? Then every skipped workout, every half-finished project, every snoozed alarm becomes evidence, proof that you're right. But what happens when you stop waiting for proof and start becoming it? What happens when you don't just try to be disciplined, you act like you already are? That's the shift. Napoleon Hill said, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But belief isn't magic. It's practice. You don't believe in yourself first and then act. You act first again and again, until your belief has no choice but to catch up. That's why you must force yourself, because the mind follows repetition, because identity follows behavior, because transformation follows consistency. Do it long enough, and one day you'll wake up and realize the person you used to pretend to be has become the person you are. That's the moment you start walking differently, talking differently, breathing differently, because now your actions aren't trying to prove anything. They're simply expressing the truth of who you've become. But here's the truth most won't tell you. There's a war inside you every day between the version of you that wants comfort and the version of you that wants power, and you better believe the weak version is clever. It knows your fears, it knows your doubts, it knows how to whisper exactly what you want to hear to keep you average, small, and safe. But consistency, that's your weapon. It cuts through all the noise. Because when you do something every day, even when you don't want to, you become someone even your fears are afraid of. You build momentum. And momentum is sacred. Once you have it, you protect it like your life depends on it. Because in many ways it does. Let's talk about what happens when you don't stay consistent. Because inconsistency isn't neutral. It's expensive. It robs you of time. It steals your confidence. And worst of all, it teaches you to distrust yourself. Every time you say you'll change and don't, you dig a little deeper into that pit of self-doubt. You stop believing your own words. Your promises lose power. Your goals feel like fiction. That's what inconsistency does. It quietly erodes your identity until you wake up one day and don't even recognize who you are anymore. You keep asking, why do I feel stuck? But the truth is, you're not stuck. You're just scattered. Pulled in 100 directions because you've never stayed with one path long enough to break through. Napoleon Hill warned us, one of the most common causes of failure is the habit of quitting when one is overtaken by temporary defeat. Temporary defeat. That's all it ever was. But you treated it like the end, and so you start over. Again, and again, and again. Chasing fresh starts because you never learned to stay long enough to see the reward that comes from staying. But there's a better way, a different way, and it's not complicated. You just commit to being the kind of person who doesn't negotiate with inconsistency anymore. You wake up, you show up, you do the work, especially when it's boring, hard, or unseen, because consistency doesn't ask for perfection, it just asks for presence. One small action, repeated relentlessly, that's what builds an unstoppable life. And here's what they won't tell you. The results don't come right away. You'll show up for days, maybe weeks, maybe months, with nothing to show for it. But that's the test. That's the filter that separates the tourists from the builders. That's where the transformation is forged, in the silence. Because the truth is, most people won't survive the silence. They'll give up when no one's watching. But you're different. Because you're not doing this for applause. You're doing this for alignment, for becoming. You're not here for the dopamine, you're here for the discipline. You think consistency only changes your career? Number, it changes everything. Your relationships begin to shift because the people around you start to recognize a new version of you. The one who keeps their word, the one who follows through, the one who doesn't need to say much because their presence speaks volumes. Your energy changes. No more dragging yourself through the day on guilt and caffeine. You begin to generate momentum from the inside, from the power of knowing. I don't break promises to myself anymore. Your clarity sharpens. Your decisions get cleaner because you're no longer chasing motivation or waiting for permission. You've become your own source. Napoleon Hill called this the definiteness of purpose. He said, there is one quality which one must possess to win, and that is definiteness of purpose, the knowledge of what one wants, and a burning desire to possess it. But that desire must be fed, not just with dreaming, not just with journaling, but with action, daily, relentless, repetitive action. Because here's the secret most overlook. Consistency triggers the compound effect. It's invisible at first. You do the work, and nothing seems to move. But deep beneath the surface, everything is shifting, rewiring, realigning. And then one day, it all clicks. You hit the flow, you stop starting over, you stop looking for shortcuts, because you've realized the work is the shortcut. Every rep counts, every word written. Every morning you show up, every night you don't quit. All of it stacks, all of it builds. All of it compounds into a power that no one can take from you. And the people who laughed, they'll go quiet. The ones who doubted you, they'll stare in disbelief, because the version of you they thought they knew no longer exists. You've burned that bridge, and you didn't look back. Consistency is delayed gratification in action. It's the quiet confidence of a person who says, I don't need it now because I know what's coming. You stop chasing quick wins. You stop begging for instant results because now you understand the deeper reward, who you become while you wait. Napoleon Hill wrote, patience, persistence, and perspiration make an unbeatable combination for success. Read that again. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not a perfect plan, it's patience, persistence, perspiration. Consistency lives in those three. And if you master them, you won't need to chase opportunity. Opportunity will chase you. But the truth is, you won't feel like showing up every day. And that's when the inner war begins. The voice of comfort whispering, take it easy. You've earned a break. No one's watching. But someone is watching. You are. Every day you choose the easy path, you tell yourself, I don't trust my vision enough to fight for it. I don't respect my future enough to protect it. That's what inconsistency is, a silent signal to your subconscious that you don't think you're worth the effort. But when you force yourself, and yes, I mean force yourself, to keep going, you begin to rewrite that belief. You start to send a different message. I do what I say I'll do. I'm not moved by feelings. I'm here to win. And your brain listens, your body follows, your environment shifts. Because consistency isn't just an external act. It's an internal revolution. It's the daily decision to lead yourself, to rise above the noise, to silence the excuse maker, to kill the weaker version of yourself before it kills your potential. And that is the real battle. Not the project, not the goal, not the schedule. The battle is you versus who you used to be. And you win, one consistent action at a time. There's a certain power you gain when you know how to suffer in silence, to work in the dark, to build without applause. That's what consistency gives you, emotional strength. You stop being shaken by mood swings. You stop looking for validation. Because now your worth isn't borrowed, it's built. You carry yourself differently. Because every day you chose discipline was a day you reclaimed control. Control of your body, control of your schedule, control of your mind. And that control becomes identity. You're no longer trying to be consistent. You are consistent. You no longer hope for results. You expect them. Because your life has become a reflection of every battle you refuse to lose. Napoleon Hill spoke often of definiteness of purpose. But what he was really teaching was self-leadership. You don't need to wait for motivation when your mission becomes who you are. Do you want to know why most people never reach greatness? Because they keep changing direction, changing goals, changing identity. They get bored, they get distracted, they start over, but not you, not anymore. Because you've tasted the power that comes from doing the same thing with discipline, with intent, with quiet fire. Day after day after day, you don't need to tell the world who you are. You let your life speak. Let your habits shout. Let your results thunder through every doubt they ever had. And when they ask how you did it, you smile because you know they could have done it too. But they weren't willing to wake up early, to stay late, to repeat when they were tired, to push when they were uninspired. They weren't willing to be consistent, but you were. You didn't come this far to build a life that fades. You came to build a legacy. And legacies aren't made in one big moment. They're carved day by day through 1,000 quiet decisions no one sees but you. Consistency is how your name becomes a standard. Not because you shouted it, but because you lived it, relentlessly, honorably, unshakably. Napoleon Hill said, "Do not wait. The time will never be just right. Start where you stand and work with whatever tools you may have at your command. That's what you've been doing, and it's enough. Because mastery is never about waiting, it's about beginning and never stopping. You want your life to mean something? Be consistent with what matters, with what feeds your soul, with what challenges your fears, With what makes your heart race and your lungs burn and your mind scream, I can't, and your spirit whisper, keep going. That's how you build more than success. That's how you build significance. You become the person people remember not because you were loud, but because you were solid, because you showed up when others fell off, because you stood firm when others folded. That's the power of consistency. It becomes your signature, your echo, your rhythm. It turns your name into a force. And here's the truth. Every excuse you've ever made can be buried by a single act of consistency. Not perfection, not brilliance, just the daily dogged refusal to quit. You may not have been the most talented. You may not have had the best start. But now you have something better. You have momentum. Don't lose it. Not for laziness, not for distraction, not for approval. Stay locked in. Stay consistent. Because the life you want is watching how you handle today. This is bigger than habits, bigger than discipline. This is about who you were always meant to be. Because once you've tasted consistency, you can't go back. You can't return to that restless version of yourself, the one who chased new starts but never finished, the one who talked big but lived small. Number that version of you is gone, buried beneath the thousands of tiny decisions you made in silence. You built this new self with blood, sweat, and repetition. And now you carry a calm that few understand, because when you become consistent, you don't need to chase life, you command it. You don't fear the future, you meet it. You don't waver in the storm, you become the storm. Napoleon Hill said, strength and growth come only through continuous effort and struggle. And you know that now. You've lived it. You've earned it. And through that effort, something inside you changed. The anxiety shrank. The excuses died. The guilt faded. And in its place stood a leader, someone who didn't wait for the world to change, but became the change. Someone who didn't wait to be chosen, but chose themselves. That's what consistency does. It doesn't just change your outcomes, it changes your ownership. Your life isn't happening to you anymore, it's happening through you. Every step forward is a declaration. I am responsible. I am ready. I am unstoppable. So here's the truth you came to hear. You don't need more time. You don't need more chances. You don't need to wait for the perfect mood. You need to move right now. Not because it's easy, but because your future is worth it. Because the version of you 5 years from now is depending on what you do today. And if that means you have to force yourself, good. Do it. Force yourself to be consistent. Because once you do, you won't need to force it anymore. The world makes way for those who dare to rise. Click the Rise button now and claim the destiny waiting for you. Your time is now.